When I was growing up, I loved fighting games. My brother and I would have tournaments. We'd play between all different types. We'd go from Mortal Kombat 2 to Super Street Fighter 2 to Eternal Champions, Samurai Showdown. We would have a total tournament between the two of us because back in the day when we were growing up, none of these things could be played online. In fact, not only could they not be played online, you'd have to go to an arcade to play them, or if you wanted to go to a tournament, you'd have to go to a major city. The majority of which would happen either in cities like New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, places that, for better or for worse, our parents weren't going to take us. So, at the end of the day, we had competition that was each other and our friends. That was when we got big into Street Fighter 2. We probably played Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition the most of any of them, but I did love Super Street Fighter 2 with the addition of Cammy, DJ, T-Hawk, and the rest of them. It really kind of filled it out. It definitely made it a more modern game than Championship Edition. But the question today is, there's a new Street Fighter that's just come out, Street Fighter 6, and I'm gonna find out if a Street Fighter 2 player can adapt to Street Fighter 6. As far as my experience with the Street Fighter franchise, like I said, the majority of it would have been Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition or Street Fighter 2 Turbo on the SNES, Super Street Fighter 2 as well. I dabbled a tiny bit with Street Fighter 5, like if I checked my account, I'm sure I've got 6 hours played in it, and honestly I didn't know what the heck I was doing when I did it, the majority of which was played against the computer. So I really have no idea what I'm getting into with Street Fighter 6 other than what I've heard about and what I've seen in different people's videos. If you're old school enough to know, the Sega Genesis did not come with a controller that looked anything like this. This is your standard, going all the way back to SNES, 4 buttons on the face with your shoulder buttons as far as a fighting game. Yes, they've got 4 now on the top with triggers, they've got thumbsticks, but for a fighting game, D-pad, 4 buttons, shoulders, that was like SNES style, that's been the same since forever. I honestly can't play on that. There's something about the way that the bumpers on the top feel when I'm executing moves and stuff, I just can't do it. If you're old enough to remember the Genesis, you had the original fat 3 button that came with it, but if you wanted to play a fighting game, you needed the 6 button controller. In order to give myself a little leg up on this whole thing, to try and get a little comfort, I went out and I bought a secret weapon. Now, this is not sponsored, no one's paid me for anything, I didn't get the thing for free, I bought it myself a while back. I purchased the Fighting Commander Octa from Hori. Now this is the newest PlayStation 5 version, and the reason that I went with it is because it's a 6 button, it's like the Genesis 6 button. It had pretty good reviews, so we'll see how it goes. You still do have your gated stick on the bottom, you've got your D-pad with the 8-way on the top, and you have your clicky buttons. I'm hoping that this controller can give me enough comfort as a Street Fighter 2 Genesis player to move forward into Street Fighter 6 and have a chance of being decent in a decent amount of time. Now for this challenge, there are a couple of things that I'm going to do. One is I'm going to play through the world mode to try and see if that's actually going to teach me enough of the basics to be successful playing online. The next part is I know that my brother is already diving headfirst into Street Fighter 6. He played a lot of Street Fighter 5. He's been like a platinum player, which I know isn't the top of the heap, but it's pretty darn good. It's a competent player. It's a hell of a lot better than what I can do. I want to see by the end of this if I can get to the point where I can hold my own against him. The last part is I'm looking at entering potential Street Fighter 6 tournaments. Worst case scenario, if I can't find anything, it'll be online tournaments that I get into. So my goals as a Street Fighter 2 player moving into Street Fighter 6, I want to attain a rank of at least gold, beat my brother in a best out of 5 series, and I want to enter a Street Fighter 6 tournament and see how well I do. I'm gonna get killed. Yeah, this is a bad idea. I'm gonna get absolutely destroyed in this thing. Anyway, so that sets the stakes. Now, I've heard really good things about Street Fighter 6 so far. I haven't even booted up the game. The only thing I've done is open this up, take the disc out, throw it in my PlayStation 5, and download the updates and install the game. That's it. That's all I've done. And the last time I played Street Fighter 5 was like 2 months ago. I think I played through versus the computer, like the short version. It wasn't anything to write home about. I'm not doing crazy combos. I don't understand all the different things. So hopefully world mode is enough to get me up and running as an old school Street Fighter 2 player to be competent at Street Fighter 6. So let's see how I do. Wish me luck, say a prayer. This is gonna be a beatdown if I've ever heard one.
So my foray into Street Fighter 6 began with World Tour mode, where I met some interesting characters and met my first sensei,
Kids, take a breather.
Luke. At that point, I had a really poor effort at making myself in the character creation mode and ended up with some kind of strange, old, plasticky looking dude that only vaguely looks like me. In fact, probably not even vaguely. But at that point, I was just kind of sick of going through the beginning, so I jumped in and started training with Luke. Street Fighter 6 has a really cool approach to learning how to do different things because they set you up with your trainer, they explain how to do things, and then they give you a set number of completions they want you to hit before you move on to the next thing. Now, one thing that did sort of irk me from the beginning, although I'm sure it's great for new players, is it starts with the modern controls, meaning one button special moves, which sounds great. Again, I'm used to old school Sega Genesis 6-button Street Fighter, so when you told me I've got 3 buttons and a special move button, honestly, it kind of messed me up. Anyway, I caught on enough to try and get through it, started to learn about my new buddy Bosch, who we were going to go through this story mode with, and then it was out into the world to start beating up on random people in the streets. I got myself some fresh gear, learned some new moves from Luke, and ran into my second sensei, Chun-Li. And I learned how to add different special moves, and I started to think I was getting the hang of things. At that point, I was sort of itching for some real one-on-one battles with real characters, so I decided to jump in and learn Ryu. Began going through the combo trials for Ryu. It took me a little while to figure out what buttons I actually had to press in order to do each of the combos, and it wasn't until later that I figured out you can actually change what it describes there, and instead of using the names of the moves, it can show you the actual controls. Regardless, I started working my way through it and got a little bit quicker, a little bit better each part. The first thing that really started to trip me up though was the drive rushes canceling out of another move. It seemed almost unnaturally fast that I had to hit towards the opponent twice in order to cancel drive rush off of a move. And that one combo on intermediate 7 really took me quite a while to get used to. The other thing that I found that I really struggled with was linking moves. I didn't really understand the bar that's above your head that shows when you're supposed to use the next move, so it wasn't very intuitive to me to understand which moves that I was supposed to use before the prior move ended, as opposed to linking, which means you use it as your character recovers from the prior move. It was helpful that there's a 50% speed mode, so I could try to get the inputs correct and then just work my speed up to try and match a full speed combo. And I was able to get most of the way through the combo trials before I decided to try my hand at ranked and do my placement matches. Now, my very first match was against Zangief, and one thing that really bothered me was that despite the fact that I had changed my controls both in World Tour mode and to do the combo trials, yet had not changed my actual mode for going into ranked. So my very first ranked match was using modern controls, and I had no damn clue what I was doing. First Zangief I fought was also in his placements using modern mode, and I got absolutely smashed. At that point, I finally went back in, figured out that I needed to change my controls, and was into my first match, of course, against the Guile. The old classic, Ryu Guile. Ryu pretty much never has the advantage, but at least I knew what my opponent did, for the most part. Unfortunately, there was quite a bit of lag in this one, possibly because of my wireless connection at the time. I'm not sure if it was me or it was the Guile, but frequently the rollback dialed up to 4 or 5. I was able to edge him out with an OD fireball for my first win rank. Another nice thing about Street Fighter 6 is that you actually get right back into the matches super quick. Unfortunately, I ended up losing the second one to Guile, and then in true Guile style getting almost timed out in the third match. That put me 1 win to 3 losses in my placements. Next match was up against an Iron Cammy, which will give you some idea how we're doing with our placements. And she quickly took care of me in 2 straight matches. Put me up against the Chun-Li, who I also played pretty poorly against, and I was able to pull off back-to-back matches against Chun-Li. My 9th and 10th matches were both against brand new characters with Jamie and Marissa. I was able to take out Jamie without really understanding his character at all, just using Ryu basics from Street Fighter 2. Marissa, on the other hand, was a bit of a back and forth match, and I was able to pull it out as well. That placed me in a beautiful bronze 1 to get things started after my placements. Not exactly on target. Ended up continuing from there and was doing okay in bronze, honestly. I was still frequently messing up my supers, but I ended up my first day of playing ranked in bronze 2, so placed in bronze 1, pushed up to bronze 2 without really understanding the game very much at all, and basically relying on the skills I'd learned from World Tour mode as well as old school Street Fighter 2.
Alright, so that's going to do it for today's episode. Stay tuned as I continue with my series to try and see if an old school Street Fighter 2 player can hold their own in Street Fighter 6. Let me know in the comments down below how you think I'm progressing with it. Hope I see you in the next video, and until then, this is Pirates for Pirates Gaming saying I will see you there!